I was making coffee when I saw my own face, framed beside a coffin inside a church I knew too well. In the video, my father read a eulogy. My mother cried. Everyone wore black. And me. I was very much alive, standing in my kitchen staring at the screen. The video came from Mrs. Langford, our old neighbor. I hadn't heard from her in years. There was no greeting, no explanation, just one short line. "I'm so sorry about your parents. I can't believe what I saw today." My thumb hovered over the play button. A pit opened in my stomach. St. Albans Church filled the screen. Same stone arches, same red velvet pews. Then the camera panned to the podium. There they were. My father in a gray suit, my mother in black lace and pearls, clutching a lace-trimmed tissue like it was a prop. And behind them, a coffin. Next to it, my photo. A large, professionally framed portrait of me, smiling softly. That photo was taken when I was 25, on a day when I actually felt happy. Now it was being used to say goodbye to someone still very much alive. My father's voice came through the speakers, low but steady. She was always a complicated child, but we loved her. We did everything we could. I couldn't breathe. They were reading a eulogy, for me. Though she left this world far too soon, we pray her soul has found peace. I stood there, frozen, coffee growing cold in my hand. I replayed the video, once, twice, over and over. Their voices didn't waver. Their faces didn't flinch. It was calm, controlled, rehearsed. I wasn't dreaming. They were burying me. The worst part wasn't the lie. It was the way they told it, like they believed it, like they'd practiced it, like I was nothing more than a character in a script they'd edited out. And in that moment, one truth hit harder than anything else. This wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. I hadn't spoken to my family in 3 years, not since the day they cut me off, threw me out like some stain on their polished reputation. But never, not once, did I think they'd go this far. They didn't just erase me. They buried me. I sat down slowly, my phone still in my hand. My mind flooded with questions that burned like acid. Why? What were they hiding? Who declares their daughter dead unless there's something to gain? I replayed the video again. I scanned every face in the audience. My Aunt Lorraine, Uncle Ted, my childhood piano teacher, people who had known me since I was a child. Not one of them questioned it. Not one reached out. It wasn't just a lie. It was a cover-up. And in that moment, a single thought formed, sharp and clear as glass. I'm not dead, but someone desperately wanted me to be. And if they thought I would stay silent, then they never really knew who I was. 3 years ago, I was thrown out of my own life like yesterday's trash. No warning, no explanation, just a late-night confrontation and one sentence from my mother that I'll never forget. Better to lose one daughter than both. It sounded noble, but it was rot wrapped in ribbon. That night, I was accused of stealing $80,000 from our family business. Not questioned, not investigated, just accused and condemned. My father didn't say a word. He looked at me like I was something he didn't recognize, something he didn't want to. The truth? It wasn't me. It was Sophie, my younger sister, the golden child, the perfect one, the one who always got a second chance, and a third and a fourth. She had been siphoning money from the business account for months, buying luxury clothes, jet-setting vacations, bottle service at clubs she wasn't even old enough to legally enter. When the numbers didn't add up and the books caught fire, they needed a scapegoat, and I was convenient. "You've embarrassed us," my father said the next morning. "You're no longer our daughter." I left that house with one suitcase and a bank account I couldn't access. No phone calls, no texts, no goodbye. Within days, every number I tried was blocked. Every door I'd once walked through now slammed shut. Friends I'd grown up with vanished overnight. Family stopped answering. I was gone and no one asked why. I disappeared. Not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. Eventually, I did what broken people do. I left the country. I took a job in a cafe in Lisbon, then taught English in Krakow. I rented rooms under aliases, lived quietly, kept off social media. I stopped using my real name. I wasn't Amelia Carter anymore. I was anyone else. And yet, a part of me still hoped that one day someone would call. Someone would say, "There's been a mistake." Someone would want me back. That day never came. Instead, something worse did. Last year, I tried to log into my old email account just to retrieve an old file. It wouldn't let me. When I contacted support, I was told the account had been deactivated. Reason, account holder deceased. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, replaying every second of that funeral video in my mind. My father's calm voice, my mother's elegant sobs, my own smiling photo beside a casket. They didn't just abandon me. They didn't just lie. They legally killed me. And I needed to know why. I needed to understand what they were trying to hide that was worth erasing me from existence. So I started digging. I called Aunt Lorraine, my mother's sister, the one who used to sneak me candy under the dinner table. She picked up on the second ring. "Aunt Lorraine, it's me, Amelia." Silence, then a click. Call ended. When I tried again, blocked. I messaged cousins. One sent a thumbs up emoji. Another wrote, "Is this some kind of sick joke?" But then, one reply changed everything. Ethan, my youngest cousin, the sweet one, the only one who used to call me Supergirl. "Amelia, are you really alive?" "Yes," I typed back. "Please, tell me what they told everyone." He hesitated. The typing bubble blinked, then appeared. "They said you died in a car crash overseas, that they couldn't bring your body back. Closed casket. Cremation. They even said the ocean was your final resting place." I stared at the message, my hands shaking. I had never been in an accident. I'd never even owned a car abroad. There had never been a crash, never a funeral. But they had a story, and everyone believed it. I knew then that they hadn't just lied, they'd orchestrated a burial. Of me, I started searching in desperation, like a ghost trying to piece together a life she was erased from. The first person I thought of was Aunt Lorraine, my mother's older sister. As a child, she used to sneak me candy under the table during family dinners. If anyone still had a heart or doubts about my so-called death, it would be her. My hand trembled as I dialed. 2 rings. "Hello?" I took a breath. "Aunt Lorraine? It's me, Amelia." Silence, then a click. She hung up. I tried again. This time, blocked. I sat there, staring at my screen. Cold crept slowly up my spine. I wasn't just forgotten. I was a forbidden name. I moved on to my cousins, the ones I used to sing karaoke with every summer. One replied with a simple thumbs-up emoji. Nothing else. Another messaged back. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" I wanted to scream, but I stayed still. And then, Ethan, the youngest cousin, the one who used to call me Supergirl. His message came in, hesitant. "Amelia, is it really you?" "Yes," I replied. "I need the truth. What did they tell everyone?" The typing bubble blinked, then again, and then came the reply. "They said you died in a car crash overseas, that it was too late to bring your body back. Closed casket. Cremation. They scattered your ashes at sea." I nearly dropped my phone. There had never been a car crash. I'd never even owned a car abroad. My heart pounding, I pulled out every document I had, passport stamps, rental agreements, immigration papers, all clean, all intact. No missing dates, no disappearances. Then I went online, checked the Public Records Office, and there it was, Amelia Carter. Date of death, July 16th. Cause, road accident. Status, deceased certificate. ID, AR F911327. They hadn't just lied. They made it legal. They forged my death certificate. They erased me with paperwork. This wasn't denial. This wasn't mourning. This was a cover-up. But what were they hiding that was worth burying me alive? I should have stopped. But once you realize your family killed you on paper, you can't help but dig deeper. So I did. I typed Sophie Carter into Instagram. She'd made her account public again. And there it was. A gleaming carousel of images, white roses, champagne fountains, a diamond the size of a marble. Sophie's wedding, everyone was there. Aunt Lorraine, smiling like she hadn't just hung up on me. My cousins clinking glasses, even Great Uncle Theo, who never showed up for anything unless it involved seafood. But not me. Not a single mention. Not one photo captioned, "Wish Amelia were here." I was gone. Erased. Until I looked closer. In one of the reception photos, a speech was in progress. Her husband stood smiling, and next to him, my father, holding a wine glass, speaking into a microphone, grinning. The caption read, "To the one daughter who always made us proud." And there it was, the switch. I hadn't just been forgotten. I'd been replaced. Curious and furious. I dug deeper. I searched the family business registry, and my heart went ice cold. The trust fund my grandparents had left me, college money, startup capital, everything, had been transferred to Sophie 6 months after my death, legally, quietly. She didn't mourn me. She profited from me. I stared at her radiant smile in those wedding photos, the glowing dress, the perfect skin, the eyes that said everything worked out, and it had, because I was out of the way, but no more. I looked at my reflection in the screen. My hands no longer trembled. If they wanted me dead, they were about to see how terrifying it is when the dead come back. The next morning, I walked into a law office with a black leather folder, a storm in my chest, and a single purpose. It was a sleek building downtown, glass walls, polished marble floors, the kind of place where high-stakes divorces and corporate takedowns happened behind closed doors. I didn't choose it because it was fancy. I chose it because I had waited 3 years to be taken seriously. A young attorney named Blake stepped into the lobby to greet me. Mid-30s, crisp suit, Harvard confidence. He looked like someone used to winning. He wasn't ready for my story. We sat. I placed the folder on the table and looked him in the eye. "I need your help, but not to sue for damages. I want to overturn a death." He blinked. "Sorry? Did you say death?" I slid the forged death certificate across the table. "I'm Amelia Carter. I'm not dead, but my family made it official on paper, and I want to make them pay for it." He picked up the certificate, brows furrowed. Then I laid out the rest: passport stamps, employment contracts, tax returns, leases, flight records, everything tied to dates after my so-called death. He went quiet. I took a breath. "I have a video, too. A funeral, organized by my parents, for me." He watched it, eyes narrowing as the footage rolled. My father reading a eulogy, my mother crying, perfectly poised, my photo next to a closed casket. He looked stunned. "Do you realize the legal implications of this?" he finally asked. "I do," I said calmly, "and I hope they're severe. Because this wasn't just about my name. It was about everything they stole when they buried me alive." I told him about the trust fund, the transfer of my inheritance, the fake accident story, the closed doors, the blocked calls, the way the world had been programmed to forget me. By the time I was done, his pen had stopped moving. He looked up. "We'll file a petition to revoke the death certificate immediately," he said. "Then we'll move forward with fraud, misappropriation, and if the evidence holds, criminal charges." I nodded and smiled, not because I felt relief, but because I knew. The war had officially begun. Just then, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "They're holding a memorial for you this Sunday at St. Albans." No name, no context, but I didn't need one. I knew the church, I knew the address, and I knew what I had to do. I stood up and tucked the folder back into my bag. Blake looked at me, puzzled. "What are you going to do?" I turned to him, my voice like ice. "They want to perform grief for the world? Fine. I'll give them a show they'll never forget." That night, I stood at my apartment window, watching the city shimmer beneath me like a sea of scattered stars. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't grieving. I was ready. They dressed me in lies, buried me in silence, pretended I never existed. But now I had a stage. Let them cry. Let them mourn. When the curtain rose on Sunday, they'd meet the ghost they tried to erase. walking straight down the aisle. St. Albans Church had never looked so full. I stood across the street, hidden in a long black coat and sunglasses. No one noticed me. I was still invisible to them, just like they wanted. But not for long. Luxury cars lined the block like a grief parade. Audis, BMWs, even a white Bentley that only came out for weddings and funerals. The heavy oak doors of the church were open, just long enough to swallow mourners dressed in black, sniffling into tissues and hugging each other like they'd just lost someone real. The memorial service for Amelia Carter. Me. They hadn't bothered to check if I was actually dead, but they pulled out all the stops, flowers everywhere, candles, soft organ music, the whole performance. I waited, because every good show has its moment, and for a funeral, that moment is the silence. Inside, the ceremony began. I could hear the organ swell through the doors. Familiar notes. I used to sit in those pews as a kid, never imagining one day I'd crash my own funeral. The priest raised his hand. Now, let us all stand and observe a moment of silence in memory of Amelia Carter. Perfect. I stepped forward and pushed the doors open. They groaned loudly, like a tomb splitting in half. Cold daylight poured into the church, flooding the aisle like a spotlight. I stepped into it. Each step echoed. Click, click, click. People started turning. Gasps, murmurs. Then silence again, deeper than before. A child's voice pierced the air. Mom, is that her? I took off my sunglasses, eyes locked on mine. Shocked, horrified, unbelieving. My mother's face drained of color. Her lips trembled. Then she crumpled in the pew like a falling curtain. A dramatic faint, perfectly rehearsed. My father dropped his wine glass. It shattered on the stone floor. And Sophie, she froze. Pearl necklace clutched tight, twisting in her fingers. A half-full champagne glass slipped from her grip and splashed across her perfect white shoes. The priest stepped back, stunned. I kept walking. Each step was thunder. Each gaze was lightning. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My presence was the consequence. By the time I reached the front, the church held its breath. I turned slowly and faced the room, underneath my own portrait, the same one they'd used to eulogize me, to bury me. I spoke clearly, calmly. I heard I died. I'm here to correct the story. No one moved. Some had phones in their hands but forgot to blink, let alone hit record. There was no accident, no tragic crash overseas, no closed casket because the body was unrecognizable, because the body never existed. I reached into my coat and pulled out the file, thick, sealed, stamped, government documents, passport stamps, tax filings, rental agreements. I've been alive, working, paying taxes, surviving. The only thing I lost was them. I turned to face my parents. They told the world I died, filed false documents, declared me legally dead, and then, my eyes shifted to Sophie. They transferred everything to her. My trust, my inheritance, my future. Sophie tried to speak. I raised my hand. Don't waste the room's air with more lies. Enjoy the house you bought with my money. Gasps, whispers, then a red dot blinking. Someone was filming. Good. Let the world see this funeral for what it really was. Not a goodbye, but a cover-up. I stared my father down. You didn't lose a daughter. You threw her away, and now you get to watch her walk back in. The lies had turned to ash, and I was the match. I turned once more. My father sat pale and motionless. My mother shook in her seat. Sophie stood hollow, no pearls left to clutch. You buried me to protect yourselves, I said, but I came back to haunt you with the truth. No yelling, no tears, just silence. As I walked back down the aisle, the church bells began to ring. Fitting, a funeral bell. But this time, it wasn't for me. 3 days after I walked into my own funeral, my name was everywhere. Amelia Carter returns from the dead during her own memorial. Buried by blood, Family declares daughter dead, transfers her inheritance. The story exploded. 7 million views on the funeral video within 72 hours. And more importantly, the Carter name, once known for business ethics and philanthropy, was now a punchline for betrayal. Their company, Carter and Whitman Group, caught the attention of the Federal Finance Bureau. Bank accounts frozen, trust records subpoenaed, inheritance documents reopened. Sophie was summoned for questioning. My parents went silent. Their lawyer reached out to mine with a quiet suggestion. Would your client be open to a private settlement? I laughed. Settle with the people who forged my death, threw me into oblivion, and built an empire on my stolen name? No. I met with Blake in his office, the same one where it all began. But now there was no hesitation, no pain, just purpose. We filed a civil suit with 4 major charges: fraudulent legal documentation, forging a death certificate, misappropriation of trust assets, transferring funds illegally, defamation of identity, inventing a death and spreading false information, abuse of guardianship, declaring me dead without legal process or physical evidence. Blake looked at me serious. They'll come after you with everything they've got. Money, lawyers, reputation. I smiled. Good. I'll come at them with truth, and the truth doesn't blink. Evidence started surfacing like oil through cracks. A former company accountant called us anonymously, admitted to being coerced into altering numbers. An anonymous banker sent us transaction records showing the trust transfer to Sophie. And then, Ethan, my cousin, sent over a screenshot of an email from Sophie dated months after my death. Trust me, she's never coming back. That single line was admission and arrogance. My mother still hadn't spoken publicly. My father was seen leaving the company through the back entrance. But their silence was no longer powerful. It was guilt made visible. I remembered a night in Lisbon sitting on a narrow balcony staring out over the rooftops. I wondered then if anyone remembered me, missed me, still saw me as real. Now I knew. They didn't forget me. They erased me. And now I was erasing their illusion. One morning, a letter arrived by courier. Court seal, official stamp. The death certificate had been annulled. My legal identity restored. I cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was a person again, on paper, in law, and in my own skin. Blake handed me a pen. We can stop here, he said gently. You have your name back. The assets may be partially recovered. You've made your point. I looked at him. No, I said quietly. They haven't felt even half of what they put me through. This was never just about recovery. This was about justice. Not the kind that whispers, the kind that shakes pillars. I didn't want their apology. I didn't want their money. I wanted the world to see what happens when you bury someone alive. And she digs her way out with the truth. Court day. Los Angeles County Courthouse, room 4C. Packed. Journalists lined the hallway. Some stood through the entire hearing, desperate to record every word. I walked in wearing a simple black suit, not for mourning, but to bury their lies for good. On the other side, Sophie sat stiff and pale. No pearls this time. Her eyes were hollow, her fingers tight around a legal pad she never opened. My parents were behind her, next to their attorney. My father looked ahead, jaw clenched. My mother avoided my eyes like I was still a ghost. Blake, standing next to me, began our case. Every fraudulent transfer, every forged document, every digital trace, every lie laid bare under oath. By the time I took the stand, the air in the courtroom felt like glass, silent, cold, and ready to shatter. I looked straight at the judge. I'm not here to recover the past. I'm here to make sure no one can erase another person just because they're inconvenient. I told them about the night I was cast out, about the years I lived in exile, about the fake death, the forged documents, and the stolen future. When I finished, not a single pen scratched paper, not a single cough, just truth, hanging heavy in the room. 2 days later, the verdict came down. Sophie Carter was found guilty of misappropriating trust assets, ordered to return every cent with interest and pay damages for reputational harm. Richard and Diana Carter, my parents, were found to have filed fraudulent legal documents subject to heavy civil penalties and a formal public apology. A court order was issued. They were barred from contacting me unless legally permitted. Their company? Under audit, investors pulled out, shares plummeted. The Carter name, once gilded in respect, was now etched in disgrace. Weeks later, I received a letter. Inside was a newspaper clipping, my parents' printed apology as ordered by the court. Tucked behind it was a handwritten note from my mother. "We were wrong. We don't deserve forgiveness. If you never speak to us again, I understand." I folded it and placed it in a drawer. I didn't write back, not because I hated them, because some wounds don't bleed anymore, but they never stop aching. 1 year later, I unlocked the door to my new office. A small bronze sign read, AC Legal Advocates, Restoring Identity, Reclaiming Justice. I hadn't come back for revenge. I came back to make sure no one else ever vanished the way I did. In the corner of my office sits a framed photo, the one they used at the fake funeral. I keep it not for pain, but as a reminder. They once declared me dead, but I wrote myself back into the story. I died, in their version of reality, but the girl they buried? She never returned. The woman standing here now is not seeking approval. She doesn't need forgiveness. She is not a ghost. She is fire. She is proof. She is free. This story is not only a journey of fighting for justice, but also a testament to the power of perseverance and courage. Despite being betrayed by family and erased from life, the protagonist did not allow herself to be forgotten. Instead, she found strength within herself to turn the tables, confront the lies, and restore her right to self-determination. It is a great lesson about never giving up, no matter how difficult the circumstances, and always standing up to claim justice. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more engaging and inspiring videos. Let's share this story to spread strength and resilience.